All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. Very happy to have you. Welcome to Common Sense Media's digital wellness session with Jamie Nunez, our amazing Jamie Nunez. Our webinar today is being simultaneously translated into Spanish. Thank you very much to Marty Bitone, who is our interpreter this afternoon. I will now share this in Spanish. Hola y bienvenido al Bienestar Digital de Common Sense Media con Jamie Nunez. Este webinar se transmite en español simultáneamente. Haga clic en el botón de interpretación del idioma que aparece en su pantalla si desea escuchar esto en español. Muchísimas gracias a Marta Bitón, que es nuestra intérprete esta tarde. We are also recording this session and it'll be available on our website within 24 hours. We have Ryan Hagerman, an extraordinary student from Marin School of the Arts here in Novato, who's been really working with this student leadership team to make this speaker series possible. Today is our final session. It's been an amazing journey. And we're just so thrilled to have Jamie and other amazing community-based organizations join us in really proactively and meaningfully connecting our high school students to wellness and mental health. So thank you so much, Ryan. I'm going to pass this over to you to introduce Jamie.
Okay, so at this point, I usually tell our viewers and audience members about all the great events we have coming up, but this is the last one. So if you've been to some of our other virtual events, thank you. If you haven't, they're on the website where you signed up for this or are viewing this now, and you can see all the recordings. We've had a lot of great speakers, a lot of great groups. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to Jamie from Common Sense.
All right, Ryan, thank you. Kim and everybody else that's joining us. I'm going to have a condensed version for you because it's 3:30 on a Thursday afternoon. I'm sure we're all tired. And Miss Shannon, folks that have come on here, I want to make sure that you are all excited to kind of see the experiences that we have collectively together. So I'm going to share my screen in a second, but here's what I'm going to ask you to do. For folks on the call today, I'm going to ask you to think about what media balance means for you. It might sound silly to think about how to balance things out when you're so inundated with technology and so inundated with distractions around you. But I'm going to think about what that looks like to actually move away or use the tech that you're on in a much more intentional way. But what I'm going to need from you is folks on the call and folks that are listening in, I'm going to need for you to do some active, practical things on your device, as well as to think about how you're going to shift that mindset based on what you tell yourself. We sort of refer to as these habits of mind or dispositions at Common Sense. All right, who is this interesting guy that just put on weird glasses and blonde, has these orange blonde hair in front of you? My name is Jamie Nunez, as Ryan and Michelle pointed out. I am the Bay Area Regional Manager at Common Sense. So what I do is I help educators, parents, and students like yourselves think about digital citizenship, this idea of actually how you behave online, how critically you think online, how you behave in a safe way, and more importantly, how you participate, the civic component into your session. So let me share my screen and then we can go from there. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do, though. At any point, if you have any questions, I encourage you to ask them on the chat, and we will go from there. Michelle, Ryan, as you're presenting along or as I'm presenting at you, if there's anything that you are interested in, you all let me know, and we will go through this deck fairly quickly to kind of take questions that we need to take on. All right, we are the leading nonprofit, so we essentially help, Common Sense helps to build healthy, equitable families, and when we power kids in all sort of this digital age. And we do that in a number of ways. You may have seen our Common Sense Media, where we rate and review books, videos, and apps, etc. We are also have a platform called Common Sense Education, where we provide free lessons for your teachers. as well as resources for any educators that you work alongside of or you work through. And then finally, we have a platform called Common Sense Kids Action, where we help, amongst things, provide policies that protect your own student sort of data, as well as a number of initiatives around tech and mitigating the tech gap for our kids. All right, here's what I need you to know. Here's what I need you to do before you leave today. I need you to think about how you check your online impulses, right? Like, what are those things that you go to every day that we need to really start checking and questioning? There's no judgments here. I may not know you, but by the end of our time, I need you to really think about what that looks like. So if you're on TikTok this evening and you're grappling with like, should I post another video or should I like that? Or if you're on IG wondering what that photo is of your friend and whether or not you need to be taking photos or videos, I want you to think about it. Nobody's asking you to stop doing that. We're just asking you to think about what those impulses are. The second thing I'm going to ask you to do is to think about what you want to put out there, right? Earlier I said that Ryan has an interesting narrative, and I confused him for being a high school bodybuilder based on his physique the last time I was here. But maybe that's not Ryan's narrative. Maybe that's not what he posts online. So I'm going to encourage you all to think about what your story is online. Not your Instagram story, but your actual story. The reason for it is our colleges, your future employees, they're all paying attention to that. The way I got hired onto this job, I'm assuming my employer looked at my LinkedIn account. He or she or they were also looking at what I was posting. So I want you to be able to let others know what you stand for, not just those impulses that we were talking about. And finally, if you're grappling with dilemmas, relationships, particularly relationships that include maybe a significant other, I'm going to give you some tips on how, when you start to feel unsafe, what to do with that. And again, this isn't just like tell an adult. This is simply like, what are the nuances that you need to know if you start to feel uncomfortable in any relationships that you might have. If you have any other questions, if you have any comments, if you have any ways to say, Jamie, what's the best way that I can get more likes? Let's just have a conversation at the very end so I can have you rethink about what those things mean. All right, so here are the things that I need you to do. I want you to take out your phone first and foremost, if you haven't done so already. Do me a favor and find someone that you want to say hello to, someone that you haven't kept in touch with. Pick an application that works for you. I want you to think about that person not as someone that's just your friend on social media or someone that you like on your contacts. I want you to think about that person as it relates to what they might need mentally. Maybe it's that friend that you haven't spoke with in a while that is grappling with a loss. Maybe it's someone that is just really stressed out because of some finals or tests. Take a moment now to reach out to them. And here's what I want you to think about saying. Hey, number one is I miss you. And two is say something that actually gets you to connect with that person. So I might say to Ryan, I haven't seen you, but I really want to appreciate you for wearing and coordinating your black shirt and your glasses with me today. So these are really simple things, right? Something that would connect you with that person. All right, I'm looking at a few of you. Hopefully you guys are doing it. And if you're putting up some finger to say, to hell with you, who are you to tell me what to do with my phone, then I'm terribly sorry. That's just an invitation. As you do that, I want to explain what the reason for what we just did is. We want to affirm everyone's presence. At the end of the day, why you're online is to feel heard and to have a voice and to have a connection. We've done some really quick research at Common Sense. I'm going to give you kind of why this is important. And what we've done is we've looked at what our kids were doing, particularly our teens were doing, as it related to their use of being online. And what we found is roughly about under 40% of them reported actually being moderately to severely depressed. Right? They also were reporting, your own peers were reporting that they were looking at other health resources, right? So we were thinking about what to do with that depression. So if you're grappling with that, like when is school going to end, or when am I going to go back into the classroom, or when am I going to go online, or whether or not that person likes me or not because I haven't gotten in contact with them, just know that this is a very interesting time in our lives. And if you know someone like that, reach out to them. It will help affirm your connection with them. Finally, for parents listening in today, I want you to remind you what the purpose of social medias are for your kids in this age group. And while we grapple with social media, whether or not it's good or bad, this has been a really interesting, or these platforms have been really helpful in ensuring that our kids have that social support that they need when parents may or may not, right? So think of your time of where you felt connected, and know sort of whether or not it was a post or a response to that. All right, enough negative energy. I wanted to kind of let you know what you can do with all this information. The first thing I'm going to encourage you to do is, if you are on the call listening in and you know someone, or you yourself are grappling with issues where you're depressed about something, I want to let you know, from one person, one human to another, you can do something with that. And the first thing I'm going to encourage you to do is click on this link or download apps that help you kind of calm that anxiety or calm that support. These are apps to help with your own mental health. There's no need to hide it. There's certainly no need to judge it. There's simply, if that is something that you're grappling with, or you know someone that is, I encourage you to hand out some of these links that we have. All right, let's get into what we can do to actually affirm someone now, right? So we know that many of our peers need that support. The first thing that you can do to help to rebrand who you are online is to affirm someone. And what that means is you want to always be mindful of actually paying attention and validating someone else's experiences online. And that's not simply by liking something of a post that they've shared, or that's not simply engaging with them in some type of video game. That's actually thinking about what they look like when they're online, what the connection is. So I'm going to give you a few sort of tips that we can do to do this. The next time you are online, let's say you're on a Zoom call or you're doing a FaceTime with someone, take a moment to actually just affirm what they look like. So this is a really easy way. I've shared this with Michelle and Ryan a number of times, so I'll just do it again because you guys both make me laugh every time we do this. I want you to take a moment to get a little closer to the camera, not too close so everyone sees your forehead. And I want you to think of a moment that made you happy today, something that you really feel excited about. And at the count of 3, what I'm going to encourage you to do is I'm going to just have you sort of show me that facial expression. So Martha, whoever else is joining you, you certainly don't need to open up your camera, but I'm going to encourage you to look at the mirror as you do this. All right, here we go. Think of that nice moment that made you happy today. And then at the count of 3, give me that facial expression that actually affirms that moment. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. You guys are great. That's a wonderful moment, Michelle. I assume that was probably because of your dog, and Ryan, I'm assuming it's because you made it on time. Martha, I'm assuming it's because you had a glass of wine or you fed that beautiful sort of plant in the backdrop there. But notice what we just did, right? The facial expressions are really helpful. And the more you can pay attention to both the positive affirmations and also those moments where you feel a little uncomfortable and say something in that moment, the better your connections are going to be, the better that your friends and your peers are actually going to validate those experiences for you. I want you to think about that if you go on that piece. The next thing I'm going to kind of encourage you to think about is what it means for you after you've affirmed someone. The next step is really to think about, where do you need to reset what you're doing online. And so part of that is actually understanding how the system works, meaning what is actually what is happening when you're on your device. And then the other half is your own control. And so the first thing we're going to do is to think about some really basic tips that you can do. If you're on YouTube, and this goes for any application, there are a few things that you can consider doing to help to protect your privacy, meaning that you know that the algorithms or the way in which something like YouTube or TikTok or Instagram uses your information to keep feeding you, there's a way to actually limit that. And the second part is actually letting you know how to limit the amount of notifications that you receive. So I'm going to give you a quick tip on how to do that. Let me sort of share this with you all so you are aware of kind of how this looks and what this looks like. This is YouTube. You can go to YouTube, but if you were not on YouTube, you can go to any particular app. On the right-hand side here, if you notice this, there is, I'm terribly sorry for my internet connection. It's probably tired of me, and I'm assuming I'm probably tired of it being online. On the right-hand side here, there's your profile. In most instances, your applications will have a profile. When you log on to your profile, what you're going to be doing is 2 things here. You're going to scroll down to the bottom where it says settings, and most of these applications have settings. You want to click on it, And the two things we want to look for every time we are in front of an application is the following. Number one is notifications. This is telling me the instances, how often any particular application can actually inform you. You want to go through each of these preferences in the apps that you're using and think about what information you have agreed to connect or experience or to receive. And most of the time, in this case, YouTube will have the subscriptions, all the recommendations, all these buttons will naturally be on. So it is up to you to actually turn them on. And if I were you, I would go through each of them and I'd start to delete or put in gray or turn off, I should say, all of these experiences that you don't want to have. Now, why am I saying this? Because the last thing that you want on a 4 o'clock is to be swayed by an application to say more if you have other things that you have going on. Now you might be saying to me, to hell with you, Jamie, I do want YouTube to send me a bunch of information on little cats jumping in a pool, right? But that's not necessarily what we want to try to do. We want to try to build a core where you are the owner of your own sort of viewing. The second thing I'm going to encourage you to do, so again, the notifications are one thing. Look at all the apps and see how many you can turn off today as a challenge. And then the second thing, which is even more important, is the thinking about how the information that you share on platforms, what happens to the information and how is this information used with you or against you, right? And I say against you, meaning if you don't no longer want to watch cats jumping on a pool, but you get fed by these algorithms more and more cats jumping on a pool videos, then your inclination to remove yourself from that, meaning you want to shy away from that, will be a lot harder, right? I really like surfing, and so sometimes I will watch videos of going surfing and I'll forget to turn off my privacy, and then all of a sudden 2 hours later I'm surfing from around the world. It's great, but my little 6-year-old is like, what the heck, Dad? Like, you didn't spend any time with me the last 2 hours. So part of this this option here, part of this activity here, is to turn these things off, which is keeping all my saved playlists private. You want to make sure that that is private, and then keep all my subscriptions private, meaning the algorithm, or YouTube in this case, prevents you, or you're preventing it from actually feeding you more information and content related to that. Let me go back so you have that and give you a moment to look through your own applications and to think about what notifications you want to turn off this afternoon. Take a look, challenge yourself, see if you can do maybe 2, right? And if you're like, heck no, I want to be notified of every TikTok or every Fortnite game, then I'm going to encourage you to see what it would look like for 24 hours to remove these notifications. All right, if any other questions, I'm going to quickly look at the chat. All right, wonderful. All right, let's close our last kind of piece up with this piece, which is if you're grappling with notifications in general, there are apps like something called Pushover, or you can look on your Apple Store or your Google Store or your Google Play to think about having an application that helps to notify and give you some spacing when you'll actually receive this notification, right? So apps like Pushover can be a really great help. And what they do is they provide real-time kind of notifications at your leisure, right? So maybe you want to receive notifications at the end of the day or during the afternoon, so on and so forth. Consider looking at that if you do have problems or you're grappling with that as well. All right, I want to close with this. This is fairly quickly for us, but I want to close with thinking about what exactly are you trying to communicate with your persona, with your identity online. And I can't stress this enough. If you're on the call today and you're wondering like, God, I just want to let others know who I really am, but it's really hard because I have multiple accounts, or I'm really grappling with who to tell people who I am, or I'm really confused because I'm all sorts of things and I enjoy everything, Jamie. Here's a really great way to start that process. Why it's so helpful is, as I pointed out, as you think about applying for colleges, if you're a senior on the call, or if you're a freshman on the call and you're grappling with like, how do I set myself apart in the school or online? One wonderful way to do that is actually making sure that your narrative or your story is correct. So what do I mean by this? Let me give you 2 case studies just so you're aware of that. You guys are probably going to laugh at me. There's an artist by the name of Rebecca who came up with a song called It's Friday. You guys remember some cheesy thing that went viral? Prior to that song going viral, this young woman was an actual artist, meaning she was just a sort of regular, everyday kind of student, and she liked drawing on the side. And it's very interesting hearing her story because once she showcased her songs and her music, it brought in this very interesting talent. It brought on a lot of hate, which she didn't anticipate, but it brought on a lot of really big affirmation for her just to continue her art. And you might be doing the same thing. Maybe you tie your shoes really well, or maybe you paint really well, or maybe you play great music very well, or maybe you know how to do certain things that others don't. I encourage you to amplify that, right? To hone in on that. Again, your end goal is not to become viral, is just to showcase who you really are. The other story is brought on by an eighth grader at the time. Ethan Gamer was just a regular student, I believe, in middle school that wanted to game, and he wanted to share his stories about how he games. So what he has done is he's essentially created a YouTube page dedicated to how to game. His I don't know, interpretation or his critique on certain gaming, and then tips and tricks for those gamers out there. That's his forte. That's what he likes doing, right? So that's what he's trying to communicate. So I want you to think about what stories you sort of share online as you think about your own persona. All right, now this is the last part, and I promise this will be intentional before I kind of give you some tips about safety. I want you to think about your narrative in the following way. We're going to kind of talk about these experiences, and this is how I'm going to encourage you to do this. I'm going to ask you to think about a moment that you had over the last month, over the last year, just a memorable moment that you think could be posted online. Maybe you want to look at your Instagram. Maybe you want to look at, if you're not on social media, you want to look at something that you did online. And I want you to reflect on it, meaning I want you to capture it again. And then once you have that, I want you to think about what's the story that came with it. And I'm going to give you an example in a second in my own life, but I want you to frame it within a plot, a storyline, right? Because we're going to take that moment and we're going to develop a much more broad story that came from that moment, right? And then after that, I want you to think about where you're going to share that, where things are safe, where you feel like people will accept you, and where you'll feel proud of the fact that that moment meant something for you, right? So that's kind of the idea behind that. Let me give you an example now. I used to teach a while ago. I was a high school teacher. And one of the things that I remember in teaching was that my kids would often turn to me and they would say, Mr. Nunez, I need some help with communicating, or I'm really angry at my mom, or I'm really angry at my dad. I need to help how to talk to them. Now, I'm not a counselor by no means. In fact, I was a history teacher, a social science teacher, but I knew that my students really needed help, right? And so one of the memories that I had in that was how we went back and forth. And what I would do is I would create, and this is when text messaging was big, I would create essays in my class to say, I want you to think of a conflict, and I want you to have a text message back and forth with someone else in class about that conflict. This could be related to my subject. And those of you that have a conflict in your own personal life, I want you to resolve the conflict through text messaging with someone else. Now, that moment was something really powerful for me, but the way I frame it within something bigger was helping my students find their own voice using text message, right? That was the kind of plot line that it was sort of built within. And that's what I would encourage you to think about. So here's how it's going to work. Maybe you want to overcome a monster in your life, meaning there's something major. Your memorable moment was about overcoming something big, right? So maybe you want to share today about some type of obstacle that you overcame this year, right? Maybe it's about a vulnerability, right? That I used to be shy, and now that I'm in front of someone, it happened during this moment. Or maybe it was you spoke up when others weren't, right? Maybe you saw an inequity that you want to overcome, right? This is a vulnerability that we want to talk about. Maybe a friend said something to you that really offended you, and you really want to put them on blast, but you want to take a step back and say, what exactly is my friend actually trying to tell me about who I am, right? These are vulnerable moments. Maybe it's about a voyage that you had, not a physical voyage, but a new experience that you had. Maybe if you're on this call today and you experienced something that you wish you regretted, maybe you want to talk about that experience, right? Not as something that's negative in your life, but maybe it's something that you lived and learned. So others that are experiencing that same thing may actually learn from your experience. These are really great ways. Colleges love this. If you are going through the academic route, talking about these experiences. This is called the voyage and return moment. And then finally, maybe it's just this idea that you and someone else collaborated on something. So maybe you are an amazing artist today, and you are just really good at taking TikTok challenges, and you're really good at creating film together, right? So talk about what that process was for you. Right, so these are really, really great ways to affirm who you really are online, as opposed to just scrolling through your content and liking something and comparing yourself to others. Not that anybody on the call does that, but just to let you know. And then the final piece is maybe it's just about your communication style. Right, at the very beginning, I said this is a weird guy with weird orange hair, and that's okay. I'm in my 40s, and sometimes I want to act like I'm in my teens, right? And that's okay. That's just who I am, and I enjoy surfing, and sometimes I like being serious, but maybe that's the way you want to kind of communicate. Maybe you're just a goofball, or maybe you are someone that really listens well, right? So think about your own skills that you can kind of showcase in a moments around that. All right, once you're done with that, I want to kind of let you know kind of how to frame that into something. You can always use tools, Adobe Spark, Canva, TikTok, Instagram. These are really great ways to post your memory into something. Now, this is the last thing I'll say before I kind of move into safety. If I were you, I would think about what we just went through. I went through them fairly quickly, and you can go through the slide if you're interested again. If I were you, what I would do is I'd take that moment tonight. Maybe you're in the shower, maybe you're eating dinner, maybe you're going for a run, maybe you're walking your dog. And I would think about how that moment looked, right? And I'd consider creating an Instagram post, a TikTok, if that's you're into social media, or a Canva, some type of design where you can post it. And it doesn't have to be on social media. This can actually be posted through a text message with your friend, or this could just be a letter that you write. But I want you to capture it for me, right? Maybe it's a selfie that you take as this is the moment that you change your life. I want you to think about how you want to be public with that, because that's what we want to see more and more of in your experiences. Okay, I'm preaching now. Is everybody okay with that? Let me see who's on the call before I have that. Kim, Martha, anyone else? Are you guys in a good place? Okay, you can give me your thumbs up at any point, and if you're not in a good place, then I'm going to move on to the next section. All right. So I want to close with what these might look like for you, right? So Ryan was on the call a minute ago, and his moment is perhaps like looking at the fact that he didn't have a voice, or he and his peers wanted to express who they were online. Right, so this is where I would say sort of his frame was overcoming a monster. And if I were him, and if he's applying to colleges, or if he's connecting it on his friends, what I'd look at is what he and his peers were able to actually do, right? This is this video that they've created, and I won't go through the video, but I want you to kind of take a look at this, right? And this is an interesting piece. When I look up the Marin County Student Wellness Series, they're at the top of the site, right? Their own site was at the very top. To me, that tells me that his voice and the voices of his peers are really meaningful, right? So I would take and I'd capture this, and I'd amplify it. I'd make it as big as possible. And not to boast, but this is something really amazing, right? You might have there's another interesting storyline of a student that I overheard, hilarious, but a student early on created a video loop for a Zoom class. So he thought his teachers were paying attention, and apparently from what I heard or what I remember, he was nodding and he was smiling, and his teacher actually believed it, right? So it was quite a humorous moment. But to me, I think of like, it wasn't about tricking others thinking that your camera was on, but it was actually about his ability to design something and communicate something with his peers, right? So I just think it's pretty powerful that you can kind of create that. Use this as a time that you might actually showcase that. This is a moment that was quite funny, but this is part of what I was attempting to do to give my students, give my peers a voice, right? Sometimes others are shy in class, and this is what a technique that we can use. And this might be a collaboration that you have with your teacher, but these are really, really great ways to do that. And if you use a tool, if you're interested in a tool, think about the tool Adobe Rush. It's a great way to edit videos to help to kind of support that. All right. that's kind of your 5 minute, maybe 10 minute branding approach, right? This is your space to be yourself. Take 30 seconds if you're on a call. Think of that memorable moment and think about what you're going to do with that. And then remember what I said earlier of texting that friend. What I want you to do is once you're done with that, I want you to text that friend of yours that memorable moment, right? So you can have a back and forth. And I want you to promise me, if you can, on this call, that you'll do something with it. If you're on social media, I want you to be yourself and post it. If you're not on social media, I want you to do something with it that validates who you really are. All right, I'm smiling extra at you just because I know you're going to do that. I'm going to close off with talking about what to do when you feel like in danger. And some of you on this call maybe have already experienced this. Some of you have yet to feel that pressure. But because there's many tools out there where we're at, sometimes we encounter creepy people. And if that's the case, if you experience it personally, if you're grappling with it and wondering like if you're alone, you're not. But there is a pressure, right, to share intimate photos, intimate texts, intimacy, and private information. Maybe sometimes we don't always want to do that. And sometimes, if you've gone through that experience, sometimes your parents may not know the experience and maybe you're reluctant to share that information. I want to start to give you an outlet for how you can begin that process if that's been you. Part of making sure that you have balance online is making sure knowing when to go when you're starting to feel uncomfortable. So I want to make sure that you are aware of this, but Instagram, if you are on that, gave their users they updated their profile to make sure to report someone that is giving you problems without them actually knowing. So sometimes we know that if you tell on someone, others might call you a snitch. Just know that there's options in certain gaming, so let the application know when you're feeling like there's some abuse or something going on. I encourage you to look at this slide as a resource if that's of an interest to you. Sometimes there's applications. This is a really big one where we are tempted to just go in and speak with strangers. There's a big popular app for a while. It's called Omegle. If you used it, then just know that it can be very unsafe to talk to strangers. If you are interested in knowing more about it, parents on the call, this is something that you may be considering knowing more about. But it's essentially a site where you can openly talk to strangers, right? And I think there's an allure to that. There's something interesting about that. But know that these are also sites where predators or people that are interested in getting more information from you use to connect with students. So just so you are aware of that. But here's what you want to do about it, right? Know when to go. And sometimes it's harder to kind of express the words, but I'll give you some tips now. Be ready with your message. If you ever encountered something like that, be able to know your message. This message could be in acronyms or it could be in short text. It could be in an emoji, but have your message ready, right? It could be right back, no thank you, and to you. I think KOP is like keep out, please. These are all sort of like messages that you have, but know your go-to, right? And don't shy away from your go-to. If someone pressures you more, know your secondary go-to if you're interested in that. The second you feel uncomfortable, the second thing you want to do is you want to report it on the platform. And don't pay more attention to that. If you've experienced that, if you feel it, if you feel funny, if it's someone that you know really close and you don't know what to say to them, just know your exit and then know how to report it on the platform or know how to report it in this case to the other person and that connection. And then the third is I want you to find your network. This might be friends initially, but adults that you trust. Find your network and share out those experiences. Don't share the fact that you've been a victim to this or not, or you feel bad or not about it. I want you to just share out about what the experience was so you can get the help needed the next time it actually happens. The more you practice these three things, the easier it actually becomes. So get your message ready. Report it on the platform if it's part of the platform, if it's something uncomfortable, and then find your network of people. Do me a favor now on your phone or on your device, star those people now. So if you know those are your go-to, star at least 3 people that you want to go to if you feel uncomfortable, with one of them at least being an adult. Okay, that's enough caring dad counseling with you, but just know that there's an option there on that. I'll close with any Q&As that you all have and just some closing remarks about the fact that when you are doing something, I encourage you to be your whole self in this presence. With that, I will take any questions or anything else that you all have. And if
Thank
not, we'll
you.
just smile. Yes.
Thank you very, very much. That was really, really great. Um, it works. The reporting works. I mean, I've done it before where I feel not good and I report it and it's taken care of right away. And I was nervous to do it too, but it definitely does work.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Michelle. I think it's powerful. It's really difficult, right? It feels icky and it feels interesting, but no, that's part of your brand, right? That you're going to come across experiences. I mean, I do it as an adult, right? I get phone calls that are scam artists that say, "What's your information?" And I have to have my go-to outside of just hanging up. Like, and that go-to is, "Please take me off your do not call list," right? Or put me on your do not call list. And I have to say it really quick and repeat it, but it's part of it.
Totally.
Great points.
So you going into high schools, you have that ability. Common Sense Media is able to get into high schools and into middle school, high school, I mean any school. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we are able to support, and we have resources for that connection. So if you are interested, please by all means look us up, commonsense.org, and if I can be of any support myself, I will certainly leave my information as well. So on
And
behalf
then
of us, thank you.
on that question, it's Common Sense, not Common Sense Media. Did I miss that change?
It's commonsense.org is the URL.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you all for being here.